Hello everyone. So we caught all-time highs into the S&P. We were long. I was showing yesterday how I thought we were going to break new all-time highs this week. That ended up playing out very well. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what the next steps are for the market. Obviously tomorrow is Wednesday, then Thursday we have Thanksgiving. Friday we close early in the market. So there's a few things to look at. Primarily, I am not entirely convinced about tech stocks. That's the only sort of worrisome thing that I see in the market moving forward for the rest of the week, but let's see. All right, so we're going to take a look at the large tech stocks, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Russell, the VIX, the dollar, and the bonds. All right, so without further ado, let's get started with the video. So this is a chart of the ES. Very, very simply, yesterday I was showing how when you get two solid closes above a major trend line level of support, the third day tends to be moved to the upside. Clearly, that looks like that's what happened. So once again, this trend line that we are talking about is the trend line that was made from the bottom of October 5th, and then we connected it to September 11th's low. And then you can basically see how this has acted as support and resistance all throughout, and especially last week. So once we got these closes above this trend line for the past 2 days, that was a very, very bullish indication for me on the ES and the SP500 overall. That's a big reason why we ended up being long, and this was a really, really good trade. And we ended up, really catching this move. Number two was also because the NASDAQ is also above a major trend line of support. So because the SPY and the NASDAQ were both above a major trend line level of support, it helped lift the market up overall. Not to mention the large tech stocks as well that had a huge rally recently as well. Those helped also. And then, of course, the IWM, which was the biggest winner. The IWM was rallying and it helped pull the S&P 500 up. Great. Caught the move. Spectacular. We caught some upside moves. We went long on the S&P at around 597.50 is when we went long. The calls, so we got the calls at 660. The calls are at $9. Congratulations. Great. We made almost 40-50% on them. Spectacular. What are the next steps? That's the question. So to check what the next steps are, we have to look at what the large tech stocks are doing. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So Apple, clear as day, starting to close outside of the upper level of the Bollinger Band. I was actually bearish, and I got into puts before the market closed on Apple. But then there was something off with the amount of buying pressure that we got. I'm pretty sure I got paper-handed. But just the price action of Apple intraday was very bearish. And I wanted to short, but then I sold the shorts, and I didn't want to hold overnight. So that trade, it was a swing trade. I didn't even want to swing it. So Apple, it's clearly closing outside of the upper level of the Bollinger Band. Great. This shows overextension to the upside. Does it automatically mean it's a reason to short? No. We can easily continue rising, and especially because we closed above the 786% fib, it means that whatever chance we had at a bear flag being formed here, once you get a close above the 786% fib, the chances of a bear flag drastically drop down to, I think, like an 85% chance. Very, very low. So this, basically, once it closes above, it's pretty much a done deal that bear flags are not going to work out on Apple. What's interesting is that the downtrends, what we see, all right, so at different points in the market, it could be week to week, it could be month to month, quarter to quarter, different setups appear over and over in the market. So currently we see a downtrend, right, from highs, and these highs connect. And once we got a break above and a retest, this was a good indication that Apple would continue up. Okay. Where else did we see this? We saw this on Microsoft. Same concept. Month over, basically like highs connecting. Once we got a break to the upside and a retest, it signified a good move to the upside. And that's what we're currently having on Microsoft. The reason I was short is because I don't, like overnight, I think we would get a pullback, but it is what it is. But immediately, Apple, like generally, right? Apple looks bullish as long as it could hold above the 786% fib at 233.50. Okay, so Apple looks bullish. Going back to Microsoft, Microsoft also clearly looks bullish, but after a big green move like this, the odds of a continuation to the upside is not that high. So because I saw Microsoft would get a pullback as well, it is what it is. But technically, right, Microsoft is breaking out of its downtrend with a big, strong green candle. The fact that the fact that it failed at the other breakout point, the highs of this other breakout point right here, is not a great sign for the immediate. Okay, so that was another thing that I was like, okay, this could be a pullback opportunity. It could be an aggressive short. So Microsoft, yes, the bullish momentum is there. It's looking like it wants to go. And Microsoft was a loser. It was a loser, right? Google was also a loser. So what I wanted to see, and what currently we have to see ends up happening in the market, is all of the winners are the winners going to rotate into the losers. So we see that Google had a huge drop to the downside. It bounced almost $6 since the lows. Money is funneling into Google. Is it going to retest 173 this week? Maybe. But then when you look at Amazon, Amazon had a very, very similar setup to basically what ended up happening with Google. And Amazon ripped. Amazon ripped to the upside. A lot of Amazon's move has to do with the end of the year into the Santa Claus rally, et cetera, et cetera. Amazon is a big retailer, and it's also influenced by the Russell 2000 as well as tech. So Amazon is definitely it's been a very good buy generally during this time of year, especially with Black Friday around the corner and everything of that nature. So Amazon helping lift the overall market and Amazon, et cetera, up. Tesla, though, Tesla is starting, it's continuing to show weakness. Netflix continuing to fail and to show weakness. And Meta also, it had a whatchamacallit. So it's failing. It's failing to break above 583, but Meta had a good day today, and so Tesla, Google, and Microsoft are, sorry, my bad. I'm confusing myself. Tesla, Netflix, and AMD did not do well. So the other thing I want to show was AMD is also another stock that had a downtrend and a break to the upside. So I got confused between AMD and Meta. But basically, AMD, downtrend. Once we reclaimed it and bounced, it was great. But then now we're trading back below this downtrend. So this becomes difficult to be overall bullish on AI-related companies. And it's not a good sign that AMD is like this. It's also not a great sign that NVIDIA is also trading below the uptrend that we have as well. So NVIDIA, this is a daily chart of NVIDIA, we got two closes below this downtrend level. So a lot of these winners are now turning into losers. And then the most winning tech stocks that we had, Apple, Microsoft had a huge run up to the upside. Apple is trading outside of the upper level of the Bollinger Bands. The winners are getting really overextended, and the past winners are trading below trend line, levels of resistance. So it's tough to be really, really bullish on tech at the moment. That's basically what my thought process is. I hope that makes sense, because generally what we were looking at, the reason why we were, a big reason why we were long on the S&P, let's just take a look at it again. A big reason why we were long on the S&P and just generally what ends up happening is when you get multiple closes above a trend line, it signifies a continued move to the upside. Same concept applies to multiple closes below a trend line. It signifies a continued move lower. So it's tough. It's tough to say what's going to end up happening with tech. That's why I was more bearish on Apple. And what other stocks was I saying that I wanted to be bearish on? I was more bearish on Apple, Meta, and Google. So let's see if that ends up happening today into tomorrow. But that's my concept. Like, does that make sense? When you see trend lines failing and really, really strong tech stocks failing to close above levels of resistance, when you see Apple starting to get very overextended, when things are very overextended, it means that there's not much room to the upside. So when there's not that much room to the upside, yeah, we can squeeze in a little bit more juice, but it's not a solid risk reward. That becomes the issue. So that's that. Oh, did we miss a tech stock? We saw Netflix already. Yeah, so that's my thought process, honestly, on the tech stocks. And it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. I hope this makes sense, especially with the AI chip-related stocks. They're getting beaten down. And AMD, more specifically. From a risk reward, though, on AMD, is this a place to go short? No. In my opinion, this is not a place to go short. Instead, you would want AMD to come to levels of support or reclaim this trend line to go long. This is not a good spot to go short because you would be chasing the move to the downside. Oftentimes, even during day trading or also swing trading, when you're trying to chase a move to the downside, you're hoping that momentum continues lower. And by the time you short down here, you are technically a late bear. Would market makers like to reward late bears? Would they like to reward people that are late to the party? No, because retail is generally the most late to the party. Over here, right, at highs, as we are making highs and, oh my God, AMD, it's on a rise. We broke 170, now we broke 180. Hindsight is 2020, I understand. But I never, ever tell anyone to chase. I never tell anyone to chase these longs because this is not a good risk-reward trade. Where was a better risk-reward trade? As we broke this trend line here, this would have been a much better risk-reward. You would have gotten in around 166. That would have been way better. Same concept down here. It's not a great shorting opportunity. And it's not a great shorting opportunity, but in the next few days, there could continue to be some weakness or lack of buying pressure. This lack of buying pressure or some weakness will permeate into the overall market, in my opinion. So, and NVIDIA, etc. So, we're gonna have to see. It's gonna be fun. Another really interesting stock was I wanted to Google. Google just looks so garbage to me. I don't know how to describe it, but Google looks really, really bad. But we'll see. Honestly, I haven't taken a short or anything in Google. It's just, I don't see how, I don't know. Let's see. But yeah, regardless, tech stocks don't look increasingly bullish to me. That's my point. All right. So the VIX was also another reason why we were bullish on the overall market yesterday. The VIX, it has a very, very good inversely correlated relationship to the market. When the VIX is falling, that means the overall market should be rising. And what we see right now is the VIX is coming to this $13 to $14 level. VIX futures dropped to like, all right, it's not open. But VIX futures dropped to around 13 today. So, but the VIX in general, it is coming to a major level of support. If we can cross below this and start holding, then this would be a good long opportunity on the VIX. And if the VIX is rising, if the VIX bounces off of these levels, then that would mean that it is a good shorting opportunity on the overall market, because the market and the VIX has an inversely correlated relationship. Okay. And then, the bonds didn't do too much today. The bonds have a more correlated relationship to the market, not recently, but generally the bonds are supposed to have a correlated relationship to the market. So I guess we're going to have to wait to see once the bonds break above 119.10 to see if it starts to show some strength in the overall market. The yields are supposed to be a very, very good inversely correlated relationship. The yields are showing some weakness, clearly. Let's see if the yields, once we break below these major levels of support, if the yields weakness will start to show in the overall market. Because generally, when the yields fall, the overall stock market is supposed to be bullish. But the yields were making new complete highs in unison with the overall market. So the correlation isn't perfect at the moment. But maybe it'll start to show some more correlation once the overall market, once the yields start to break below major levels of support and major levels of resistance. We have yet to see. But the last thing that I want to show is the IWM, and let's just take a look on the here. So we basically filled the gap that was left from November 22nd, and we almost touched. So the gap was at 239.43's low today, and the high was 239.24. So we are still 20 cents away from the gap being filled. And another big reason why I personally was leaning a bit more bearish on tech was because I thought, I could be wrong, this could be a monstrous continuation to the upside, and Google, Microsoft, all these other stocks can start ripping to the upside. But my thought process was tech was going to take a breather, with NVIDIA especially trading below the trend line. If NVIDIA gets a big red candle into the end of the week, if AMD continues to show some weakness, NVIDIA, etc., show some weakness, if Netflix was to make another low, tech would take a hit. If tech would take a hit, the Russell, since it came down to this level of support and it basically filled the gap, the Russell would give a good bounce, and that bounce would help lift the S&P 500 up. That was my thought process. I'm just based off of what I was seeing into the close and based off what I was seeing with the large tech stocks, etc. Tech looked weaker. I could be wrong, but that was my thought process. Overall, it feels good to be long into all-time highs. It's way better than just being short, and it was a really good opportunity. Like we saw this, trend lines. What I'm saying, like I said, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, there's certain things that just show up over and over and over again. And these uptrend and these downtrend lines have been showing themselves a lot. So you just play them the way that they, should. So an example of closing below the downtrend, right? For example, we had a close on November 15th and then a second close on November 18th. That marked a much lower move the next day on the ES, right? So that's sort of what I'm expecting to end up happening on NVIDIA. And if that ends up happening on NVIDIA, obviously that should affect tech. That's my thought process. So I hope all of this stuff makes sense. I hope you guys enjoyed. And then let's just take a look at Bitcoin. Personally, man, I want Bitcoin to drop to 84, 85. That would be a really, really much better opportunity to go long. You can see the MACD indicator is starting to curl upwards while the price is falling lower. That is generally bearish. Because even if Bitcoin makes a small green candle in the next day or two, this MACD indicator is going to start moving up. That's generally not what we want to see. I think we should continue falling a bit lower. Hopefully drop down to around 87, 88,000. That'd be great. And that being said, I'm also sort of bearish on gold. Let's see. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. So far this week, we've been doing pretty well. The only trade that I lost today was that Apple swing, which was down like 5%. And I sold that because I didn't want to hold overnight. But aside from that, yesterday we went 4 for 4. Today it was 5 for 5 until that Apple swing. So today was 5 for 6. This week's been pretty good. So thankfully, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving week. It's going pretty well. Like according to seasonality, according to how bullish the market generally is during this week, 70% of the time the market is bullish. So just currently, how green are we for the week? We are 0.9% green on the week. And yeah, thankfully, we just played along seasonality. It worked out really well, and we are just going to continue taking the highest probability trade. It's been working pretty well so far. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I am on voice chat in the mornings, and I share all of my trades via voice in the mornings as well. So if you guys want access to that, you guys can click the link in my bio, and I will see you guys in the group. See you guys in the Discord as well. So far, this week's been pretty good. So I hope you guys have a good, wonderful rest of your night. And tomorrow, let's close out the week strong. All right. So without further ado, I don't even know what I'm saying. But yeah, have a good night, man. Take care.